Welcome everybody to our little adventure. In front of us there is smelly Zovaal. Yes indeed, Zovaal has returned, reincarnated, and he is very, very sorry. You know, Zovaal is just a little bit misunderstood, as he did not understand the beauty that was Azeroth itself. But we're going to teach him. We're going to join him on a journey of exploration, where we're going to be flying across the zones of Azeroth. And as our boy Zovaal earns experience, learns more about the world and all that good stuff, he will find out that what he tried to do was very, very naughty. And he will never ever do it again. And perhaps, mayhaps, he will learn
now processing. Yes.
To be better next time. Hopefully. Welcome. We are on a wonderful journey with smelly Zovaal. As we are in the middle of Orgrimmar, in front of us, we see a wonderful cataclysmic event happening. Where a mage finishes their legendary staff questline. And funny enough, you can take that legendary staff into the Dragon Isles and turn it into a permamount. Now, isn't that just wonderful? Isn't that just amazing? Anyways, we're in the beautiful city of Orgrimmar. Named after Orgrim Doomhammer, a legend amongst the Horde. In the land of Durotar, named after Durotan, Thrall's daddy. And I need to find the War Chief's command board and pick a quest. Where do we want a quest? Well, I guess the Southern Barrens will just do. So we're going to fly around the world and see how our experience goes. Yeah? Thrall's father, not his daddy. That was his daddy. He doesn't... Oh, look, the markers are on the map. Nice. It actually works. Okay. So, what is there to say about this land? Well, the city of Orgrimmar has this wonderful campaign in Warcraft 3, where you join Rexxar during the whole founding of Orgrimmar campaign. And in this world, in this land, this is basically the foundation of the Horde as we know it today in the game. Once upon a time, the Orcish Horde, Mordantin, thank you very much for subscribing. Once upon a time, the Orcish Horde invaded Azeroth, right? This is the foundation, Warcraft 1. And it's basically what the story of Warcraft is built upon. And that Horde got his ass kicked by the Alliance of Lordaeron. Dark Portal was closed down. And then the Horde came back. And this time, they came back for some magical artifacts in order to make more portals to different worlds. And this time around, the Alliance was like, you know what? We can't do this anymore. We need to make sure that the Horde stops from doing all these bad things. We're going to step through the Dark Portal and we're going to stop them once and for all. And so, Khadgar, Tyrellian, Illyria, Kurdran, and Dana Trollbane. Yes, those same heroes that we're dealing with in the War Within. They stepped through the Dark Portal. They dealt with the Hordes. And they closed the Dark Portal on Draenor's side. Because they needed to stop the explosion, which would turn Draenor into Outland as we know it today. And obviously, we had no idea if these heroes survived or not. That is why you can find statues of them in front of Stormwind. My point being, the Horde had set foot on Azeroth due to the corrupted Guardian Medivh, the opening of the Dark Portal, Warcraft 1, all that good stuff. And here we find them, stuck in a hostile land with a history of war between the Alliance and the Horde. But not all the orcs, not all of the Horde was down with what happened. In fact, they were quite honorable before the corruption of the Burning Legion, before the corruption of Fel. And so, you find yourself with a split. A split amongst the orcs. Some of them kept on fighting in like guerrilla warfare. This was more like the Hellscream clan, led by Gromar's Hellscream, who was stuck on Azeroth because, again, the Dark Portal was shut down. Then you got Durotan and Draka, Thrall's parents, who were already not down with the corruption in the Hordes. And they already tried to expose what was going on, and they died for it. Because Gul'dan's spies were like, ooh, you tried to expose me, huh? Well, I guess you die now. Which left baby Thrall all alone in the world with nobody to care for him. But do not worry. Someone would find baby Thrall. One man, not a kind man, mind you, but one man found him. A Daelus Blackmore, I want to say his name is. And he took in Thrall. Why are these markers not going away, by the way? Did I not explore these places? I think I did. But he took in Thrall, not out of the kindness of his heart, but more because he figured, you know what? I can take this young orc, I can raise him as my own, train him as a gladiator, and then one day he can lead all the orcs imprisoned within internment camps, lead them as a private army as I take over the world. That was Blackmore's plan. And so he taught Thrall how to read, he taught Thrall how to fight, but he was a cruel master. A very cruel master. But in the darkness, Thrall would have one tiny bright light in the form of Trifa Foxton, who was kind to the young orc because when she was little and Thrall was a baby, they didn't really realize that an orc was just a baby, ain't it? And so they thought, you know, it eats meat or it's a monster and we don't need to give it milk. But she was like smart enough to realize like, hey, you're trying to feed solids to a baby. Stop it. And as luck would have it, her mother had just had a baby as well and they lost her little brother at that point. So they were like, you know, just put the orc on the teat and give it milk. And so they did. And Thrall grew up and he became really powerful and strategically of mind and all the good stuff. But like I said, Adelius Blackmore was not exactly kind to Thrall. And he was a bit of a drunk. So eventually he pushed Thrall to such a place that the shackles that were placed upon him broke. Like, he saw Adelius as somebody that he wanted to impress, right? Like, Thrall didn't know any better. But eventually he realized, like, nah, this man is evil. This man is no good. And so I must leave. And he got help from the human girl, Trifa Foxton, who saw Thrall almost like a brother. And she was like, Thrall, you gotta go. And Thrall was like, come with me. And she was like, nah, I can't. My family would be hurt, but you go. And Trifa did not have a kind life with Adelius Blackmore either. While Thrall was abused, she was abused in whole different ways, if you know what I mean. So anyways, Thrall goes out liberating the clans, and he comes in touch with where our story began. Thank you, Vanish. I'm being a tour guide right now. He got in touch with the man that we're talking about, Orgrim Doomhammer. Now, Orgrim was war chief of the Horde once upon a time, until they lost the war at Blackrock Mountain, and then they tried to imprison him underneath Lord Aran. I think it was now where the Undercity is, right? There's like a whole prison system there. But you don't control someone like Orgrim Doomhammer. He broke out, he went into the wilds, and he was like, I'll wait for the next person to pick up the ranks, you know? He was a little bit disillusioned with the whole Horde idea, especially since, you know, the whole corruption of the Horde, and I'm trying to figure out if we can make it so that the map doesn't fade out with moving. Because I would kind of like it if the map just stays solid. Surely that's an option, right? West, raid frames, nah. Ah, well, whatever. Once we get static flying, it will be better. I don't have to speed up anymore. That's going to be in a little bit. Anywho, what we're talking about. Oh, yeah. The formation of the Horde, Orgrim Doomhammer. So at this point in time, you got to imagine that the world of Azeroth was not exactly kind towards the orcs. They had this whole war with the invading Horde. But Thrall was like, yeah, hang on a minute, that ain't me. You know, I had my own journey, my own path. And then he met legends of the past. He met with Gromash Hellscream and the Warsong clan. Gromash being Garrosh's father. He met with Drekvar and the Frostwolf clan, the clan of his parents. And he was actually the first orc in ages to be accepted by the elements again as a shaman, as the orcs had embraced the foul magic under Gul'dan's corruption and the Burning Legion and the whole drinking of demonic blood. But Thrall was accepted by the elements. He became a shaman again. It was great. He met Orgrim Doomhammer. And at first, Orgrim didn't reveal himself to be like this close friend of his father or this former war chief of the Horde. Nah. He just pretended to be a regular orc, bossing Thrall around. And then Thrall was like, F you, and he started punching him and fighting him. And of course, Orgrim liked that. He was like, yeah, you're a real orc. Yeah, let's go. And eventually they came up with a plan of, we're going to liberate the Horde. We're going to reform the Horde, liberate them from the internment camps, not to conquer Azeroth as they had in the past. They were going to do it so that they could carve out a piece of the land, because they were like, you know, our people stuck in the internment camps, no bueno, not gonna happen. So they did, and Thrall returned to the internment camp that held him, Durnhold, with Adelius Blackmore. And he came to liberate his people. And Adelius, the man, the idiot, he He had found out about Trifa's betrayal. And even though in his heart he felt like he loved Trifa, in his drunkenness, he wanted to hurt Thrall more. Beautiful, thank you. And so, he had decapitated Trifa, and he decided to throw that head in front of Thrall. Now, you gotta imagine that that was quite the ballsy move, considering that there was a Horde army in front of Durnhold, and that was like one of Thrall's little shiny lights among his time living amongst fucking Adela's Blackmoor. So obviously, at that point in time, Thrall was like, okay, I would have accepted surrender, but not anymore. Oh, no, we do not. So, yeah, he brought Durnhold low, confronted Adela's Blackmoor in one-on-one combats, took his life, liberated his people, and reformed the Horde. But now what? You're still the Horde in a hostile land, aren't you? What do you do? Well, their next destiny, their next quest, their next step of the journey was presented to them by none other than Medivh. Medivh was once upon a time the guardian of Azeroth, but he got corrupted. And due to his corruption, he opened up the Dark Portal. He got in touch with Gul'dan. He was the one who brought in the Horde for the first time. And Medivh showed up at Warcraft 3 and he was like, listen, right? Listen. Some insider information for you, some inside trading. You, young Thrall, you must take your people and you gotta go because we gotta get ready. We gotta get ready. The Burning Legion is coming. Now, the idea behind it is that, long story short, Medivh's corruption was uncovered by Khadgar and Garona, and also Enduin Lothar. And so they confronted the corrupted guardian. Medivh sucked out the youth out of Khadgar, which made him a very old man, but they were able to kill him. Then his mother Egwin gathered power for a while, and she resurrected Medivh. And so Medivh was back in order to basically fix what he had broken. Tell the world, like, the Legion is coming again, and also teach them that it no longer needed a guardian. And he was going to bring people together in order to stand against our command and the Burning Legion that he knew was coming. And so he showed up to Thrall, and Thrall followed the wisdom of the Oracle as he went by. But he also showed up to King Taranis and Lordaeron, and King Taranis was like, I'm not gonna listen to some rants by a foolish prophet. I'm King Taranis. Get out! Jaina was willing to listen to him, so that's nice. And then there was also... I'm being whispered, hello. Okay. So there was Jaina, there was Thrall, and then there were Stronda and Malfurion. And all of them had got like visions and dreams by Medivh, and they were all brought together to stop the Burning Legion. Glorious! Together they worked. And, you know, Thrall and Gromash, they rode out. They even confronted Manoroth. They liberated their people from their blood curse, their in slavery to demonic blood. All the way back on Draenor, like the first bit. In a wonderful cutscene that lives up to this day.
Thrall, I have freed myself.
No, old friend. You have freed us all. Roar!
It is one heck of a cutscene. It's one beautiful moment. And so, the union of the Horde, the remnants of the Alliances at the time, there was already plague going across the lands and whatnot, and the Night Elves, they were able to get together. They sacrificed the World Tree Nordrassil, the Night Elves' immortality, and then they saved the day. Yeah, they're all safe. But then what? Well, we have Thrall and the Hordes that set up Orgrimmar in Durotan as we just fly across the Barrens. And the location was chosen because it was kind of like a little bit of a penance, which they put in. So Thrall was like, we'll do a little bit of penance for the orcs. We'll live here in this harsh lands. That's why it's kind of shit. And this is something that comes in later with Garrosh, but we'll get to that later. We also have the Echo Isles with the Darkspear Trolls, who also joined Thrall. But then on the other hand, which we are now, we have Dustwallow Marsh. And this is where Miss Jaina Proudmoore took the survivors from the Alliance of Lordaeron, and they set up base in Theramore. Now, Theramore might sound familiar to those who come in around the Mist of Pandaria time period, but trust me, back in the day, the idea was that they worked so nicely together, Horde and Alliance, Jaina and Thrall, that they wanted this peace. You know, they wanted to be an example for the world that times could change for the Alliance and the Horde. They could move away from what they've known in the past, which is nothing but war and strife, because Jaina was always capable of seeing the orcs more than just monsters. Once upon a time, she and Arvis, they went to check out the internment camps, and where Arthas saw nothing but monsters, she saw mothers and children, and, you know, they can't all be monsters if they have families or whatnot. So Jaina was always able to see further beyond, and in that regard, she tried to be like the neutral diplomat. But here, there's always been an interesting discussion and dialogue, because are you truly neutral if you help both sides? Is that true neutrality? Is neutrality doing nothing, or is it providing support to both sides, which he has done indeed? And this is an interesting dialogue for future storytelling. But at the time, we have Theramore and we've got Durotar that are trying to show the world that they can work together. But of course, there are always outside sources that are like, peace in my Warcraft, what is this?
World of Peacecraft, World of Warcraft. No, we must fight. War! It is the lifeblood of this world.
And so, outside forces worked very hard on messing things up. So first of all, I have lost my ability to dragon ride. Second of all, Jaina's father showed up. Admiral Dalen Proudmoore. And Daddy wasn't open-minded as his daughter was. And, You can't really blame the man. He did lose his son to the orcs who burned him with dragonfire. He has been fighting in the Alliance of Lordaeron since, like, day one. So there's definitely reasons for our our Catherine Proudmoore and then her husband, not Derek, father. So, Dalen Proudmoore. Yes, sorry, Admiral Dalen Proudmoore. You can't blame Dalen Proudmoore for that, but at the same time, his daughter did try to convince him. Like, Daddy, listen, the Horde is not all bad. Daddy, I've met this wonderful man, this orc. His name is Thrall, and I will be shipped with him. But trust me, Daddy, it's not like that. But Daddy didn't listen. He was like, daughter, I know you're very naive, and I know you want to see the best in people, but you'll see soon enough. This Horde will bring you nothing but grief. They will blow up your city the first chance they get. They will disintegrate your people, spit on mercy. They will hurt you. They will crush your nephew's bones. They will blow up the Vale. Her father had really cool insight that she never realized, but Jaina was like, nah, Dad, we gotta make a try. And at the time, she was definitely on point. She was like, Dad, we got, like, at some point, we gotta let go of these old hatreds, right? And her dad could not. So Jaina decided, I'm gonna step to the side. Rexxar, Thrall, the Horde, go in, do what you need to do. And this would play a big part into Jaina's history with home, because the stories of what she did that day reached home, and they would actually make a song out of it called Daughter of the Sea. They would take a song that was like a folk song, and they would change the lyrics in order to warn people about Jaina Proudmoore. It was top-tier storytelling, honestly. I loved it. But point being, at the time, you know, things were rough, but the Horde and Alliance tried to make things work. First was her dad, but then later, we actually have a Varian Rin who shows up at Theramore for peace talks. And Varian would become the High King of the Alliance, Varian, father of Anduin. Varian was very much like Thrall in a lot of ways, as Thrall had fought as a slave gladiator amongst the Alliance, grown up under misery and all that, whereas Varian was kidnapped by the Defiers Brotherhood. Now hold on, because it's gonna be some connections, okay? Varian was kidnapped by the Defiers Brotherhood, who then took him to Onyxia, who, near Theramore, Onyxia used her black dragon magics to split Varian into two. One part was going to be the noble, charming man who was going to be very easy to kill. The other part was going to be the rough fighter, that was, going to be... Oh, sorry, the first part was going to be under her control, and the second part, the rough fighter, was going to be killed off. However, she did not count on the rough fighter part being able to escape. He got into the hands of... I am Rhaegar Earthfury. He got into the hands of Rhaegar Earthfury. And Rhaegar, for those that don't know, also held slaves. And so he found Varian, and he put him together in a team with Valera Sanguinar and Brawl Baremantle, and he put him into the arena. Because slavery amongst the Horde was also a thing back then. And Rhaegar just had the High King of the Alliance, or sorry, the King of Stormwind at the time. They didn't know that he was the King of Stormwind because he had amnesia. But he just fought in the arena for his life, and that is where he earned the title Logush, which we'll play into part later. I don't have any notes. No, this is all from top of my head, to be honest. That's why we're going all over the place. So, Varian eventually comes back home. And in Classic, there was a quest line in which we exposed Onyxia for who she was. There was this whole attunement quest line. It was really cool. And as Onyxia is exposed, she takes Anduin and kidnaps him to her lair. And her lair is right next to Theramore, right there. And so, Varian rides out, the two sides of Varian ride out to go save Anduin. And during the combat, Onyxia was kind enough to blast Varian with restorative magics. I don't know how that worked, but he was put back together. And he saved the day, and they took back Onyxia's head to Stormwind. Now, after those adventures, he of course had met Jaina. Jaina had given these legendary weapons to him. And Jaina was like, Thrall, Varian, how about you boys come over for a cup of tea? We'll sit down. We'll try to get some peace to go together. How about it? And Varian was like, I don't know. And Thrall was like, I really want to. So eventually it was Anduin who was able to convince his father, like, just go to the peace meeting, dumbass. It's good for us. Go to the peace meeting. And they did. And Anduin was the wisest amongst the table, which is always funny to me. But of course, again, outside sources. This is World of Warcraft, not Peacecraft. The Twilight Hammer interrupted the meeting. With Garona half orc and attacking, I'm trying to remember if the Chronicles changed this or not. Either way, Garona attacked the meeting, and Garona was the one who killed Varian's father when the Horde invaded for the first time, when he was still a young lad. So obviously, Varian is like, What? What? You want to kill me too? I ain't going out like my old man. This is all a trap, isn't it? You Horde. All the same. And so, yeah, those peace talks were off the table. Meanwhile, you had a Garrosh as well, because Garrosh had joined the meeting by this point. Why did Thrall bring Garrosh? I don't know, but he brought Garrosh. And Garrosh was like, Thrall, I know we just met, right? And I know that I'm the son of Gromush, your legendary hero. But, these peace talks, these are talks fit for merchants, you know what I mean? We're the Horde, aren't we? We could just take whatever we want. This is what they call foreshadowing. So, yeah, Garrosh was already showing signs of, I just want to murder the opposite and just take whatever we need. Thrall was trying to get peace together, but then there was the whole attack with Garona. And Varian was like, they're all the same. And then, wouldn't you know it, bada bing, bada boom, Wrath the Lich King was around the corner. So that was the whole meeting at Theramore. And over time, Orgrimmar and Theramore would, of course, have a lot more history when it comes to Garrosh. But I think we should move on from that storyline and move into something else. For those who are just joining us today, by the way, we are doing a explorative... Hello, this is... Okay, so the idea is Earthen get experience while exploring the world. I'm taking Smelly Zoval on a redemption story across the world. Love the name so much. And I'm trying to explain bits and pieces of the lore as we go across the zones. So this is a fun way to get some experience, and it's a fun way to hang out together, I think. So here we are in the Thousand Needles. Once upon a time, this place was dry as dirt. And they had like a racetrack going on, and they had some cool shit happening, and then the Cataclysm happened, and this entire place filled up with water. But don't you worry, the Goblin and the Gnomes, they know how to adapt. So instead of a racetrack on the ground, now I have a racetrack on the water, and you can actually get like a really cool boat toy, not a boy, a boat toy around here. It's a really cool questline. Story-wise, I don't think a whole lot happens here besides... I think it's one of the examples where the Alliance is actually painted in a darker light. Because one of the annoying things, in my humble opinion, is that the Horde is usually painted as the bad guy. And often, even when they have the opportunity to make it so, they still decide... A prime example is Battle for Azeroth. They could have made it that the Alliance invaded Lordaeron and then the Horde retaliated. That would have made a different storyline, and they didn't. And that's a shame. We even have Metzen on record, like, doesn't matter. Point being, that in here, I think there's a quest line where the gnomes are, like, getting oil or something like that. They're actually doing some really shady stuff. And that's the thing. Alliance does plenty of shady stuff. It just, one, it doesn't compare... And two, it's not that exposed, which is a bit of a problem. Beyond that, we are taking the story into book lore, because there's a series called The Traveler, which was more aimed at children. Metzen said, sorry, I should actually finish the sentence. There's a BlizzCon clip where Metzen said that he found it difficult to invent storylines for the Alliance because they're always morally right, and that is less interesting. And he compared it to writing for, like, Wolverine, whereas nitty-gritty, whereas Captain America, it was harder to make up those storylines. I'm paraphrasing, not directly quoting. I'll put it in if I remember it.
I look at the internet, too, and, the Alliance community, I think, has been very vocal with this, I'll call it a conspiracy theory, that, Blizzard developers don't love the Alliance as much as the Horde, and it's just absolutely, it's just not true. But I've thought about it a lot over time. I've thought about the storylines they've called out, and the storylines or the character moments that they'll call out for the Horde, and I'm like, well, that's really interesting. It's not like we love the Alliance less, or there's less to do with the Alliance, but I think sometimes, I've heard it said this way. This is a little weird, this is theory crafting, right? But I've heard it said this way, with comic writers, right? That writing Wolverine's kind of easy, right? It's this really compelling, gritty kind of thing, but writing guys like Superman and Captain America can be very difficult because they're so morally upright, and that's what, fans love about characters like that it can be really difficult to kind of summon storylines where these very upright characters are very dimensional, because they don't make mistakes, they don't, and so I wonder in a way sometimes that maybe that takes effect in our development, that the Horde is a little easier to get gritty with and really sink your fingernails into some of that content, and the Alliance, they're the lawful good, faction, like, where do you go, so it's a little harder, but it is not remotely impossible. It's actually really fun work, and it's something we're very mindful of, and I kind of just wanted to give a shout out to the Alliance, because when I think about these old games and I think about Warlords of Draenor, the first frame of reference I get into is the Alliance. Right. If I'm an Alliance champion, just going, oh hell, not this again. It's kind of your worst nightmare coming true.
That was when they bonded together and became who they were.
Totally.
But it was basically the idea of, Horde is darker, so therefore the storyline is easier, whereas the Alliance are like the morally right high ground people, and so it was a little bit more difficult to create inventive storylines for them. And yeah, exactly. Playing Horde, you see that the Alliance kind of sucks, and playing Alliance, you see the Horde sucks even more. Exactly. And as the Alliance, you don't really get to see those darker moments. Like a Kemtarajo. I think Kemtarajo is actually part of Alliance, but not fully details. Either way. Alliance always quick. Press the Jaina goes apeshit button. Andreas. I mean, that's also a whole discussion to be having. Either way. Back to this moment right here. In the books. The Traveler series, which might actually connect to what we're seeing going down in the War Within. There's this really cool storyline about a kid that follows like this legend of a sword that has to find Naru pieces, and one of the pieces is underneath here. And so I want to say that they have Monty Gaslow helping them out. I want to say it's Monty Gaslow. But it could also be the Baron. But I think it's Monty Gaslow that helps them out getting the shard underneath the water. And they also got Murky the Murloc helping them out, which is kind of cool. So it's this whole storyline with... it was also the introduction of... You have Bonsamdi, and then you got Muzala. And Muzala played like a big part in the books. And Muzala was like then later added with the whole Shadowlands thing. So elements from those books were actually incorporated a lot more into the game. You also had it in Zul'Farrak where they mentioned Muzala. Which is kind of cool. So I'm wondering, will we actually see more of this whole quest line with the sword and the light shards of the Naru and all that good stuff? And then in good old Gadgetzan, this I learned from a Krendor video, because I did not realize this myself. If you follow the sands in the desert, if you look around in the desert of Tanaris, you find that there are footsteps. And if you follow those footsteps, you actually end up at camps. So it's a really cool visual way of telling a story. Like, did somebody try to leave town and they'll not make it? Look at this. I never realized that this was a thing. And I was like, that is so cool. So, Crendor, if you ever see this, thank you very much for pointing this out. Because I never realized that there were like these things that you could follow, and it's like, huh, I never knew. So there's like a camp, and there's footsteps you can follow. So there's little storylines that you can imagine in your own head. Like, oh, I wonder if somebody tried to... There's also, I think, one where they tried to backtrack back to town. Either way, really cool environmental storytelling that I never picked up on. But thanks to Crendor, we did. So, Tanaris. And gets us done. In Classic, there is Noggenfogger's Elixir. And it became a really popular item. Where you would get either slow fall or be turned into a skeleton. It was just an incredibly popular item. And from that, I would say that the character who was responsible for making it also became far more popular. And so you would see a Noggenfogger added with the Legion, Rogue, or the Hall quest line. But also connected to Monty Gaslow with the War Within short story. Gaslow and Noggenfogger are going to see if they can lead the goblins into the future and give them like a different kind of future besides just profits. Like, they still want to make profits, but maybe without wrecking the whole world and having like a bad reputation, which is kind of cool. We also find the Caverns of Time in this zone. The Caverns of Time are the home base of the Bronze Dragonflight. And once upon a time, the Bronze Dragonflight was asked by the Elves to help them out in the war in Silithus against the old god Kafun, against the Karaji and whatnot. And at first, the Bronze Dragons were like, is that really our problem? Don't know. But as you might notice in front of us, it would quickly become their problem, as the Karaji were bold enough to even push into the deserts of Tanaris, which secured the Elves' allegiance with the dragons. They would get the dragons on their side, which was kind of cool. And this is a war called the War of the Shifting Sands. It plays out more in Silithus, but in essence, the old god Kafun locked away in Silithus. The Karaji are a Kir that evolved under the influence of the old god, and they would push forward with their war. I think druids were also walking the halls of Ankiraj and actually awoke things in there. So the Night Elves on their explorative business, again, they showed up to the dragons, were like, hey, can you help us out? And then the war played out, and in the war we would find that 3 of their children, one of them was from Melagos, one of Ysera, and one of Alexstrasza. I believe that Marifra, who is now the leader of the Green Dragonflight, was actually one of the dragons who sacrificed herself. Then the blue one was the son of Melagos, who actually tried to go against Caligos when they had to pick a new aspect. And the red one, I do not remember. There was a red one, I'm pretty sure. They sacrificed themselves in order to set up the whole Scarab Wall. And the Scarab Wall is this big old magical wall around Ankiraj, where the Union of Night Elf and Dragon basically saved the day. They kept Kafun locked away a little bit longer, but not without great sacrifice, as it usually goes. Fendrel Stackhelm was commanding the Night Elf forces, and his son, also Stackhelm, but I do not remember his first name, his son was also fighting, and the Karaji knew this. And they knew that Fendrel was a badass leader and commander, and they had to get to him, right? Like, they knew who was their prime target to take out. So they knew that if they would execute his son in front of him, then that would break Fendrel's spirit, the Firelands guy. Yeah. So Fendrel was forced to watch as it's the boss from Ankiraj, and he held like his son above and like crushed him apart, and Fendrel was like, what the fuck? They took my boy. They killed me, boy! And it didn't immediately crush their spirits, because, you know, vengeance and all that is a powerful source. But when the war was won, and the Scarab Wall was raised around Ankiraj, Stackhelm was like, F you and your union with the dragons. My boy died. I don't want anything to do with this war anymore. He shattered the scepter, which was given to the Night Elves. Like, if you ever need to go in, you can. He was like, I'm going to shatter this apart. F you, dragons. I'm out. And so, many years later with Classic, we would be the ones reforging that scepter. As we go around, we talk to the dragons, we do a whole quest line. It was a really cool event back in Classic where the first one to like hit the gong would get a mount and a title and would be recorded for all history. For the life of me, from the top of my head, I do not know which one was the first guild. But if you go to Warcraft Wikipedia, you can find out who those were. And of course, those moments where we brought back with like the release of Classic. But yeah, those events, you have to imagine that the opening of the wall, you had a lot of people that did not know how the game worked. So eventually you would have like NPCs added to the capitals who were like, yo, give us resources for the war. And it's like, why do we give resources? So we can open up the wall. It's like, oh, okay. So we can hit the gong. It's like, okay, cool. So you had to bring in ore and meals and bandages and all kinds of cool stuff in order to fill up like the bar until you were ready. And then, only then would you have like the opening event with, I think eventually all of the gates were opened up, but you could like speed up the process. And you would have like invaders and Silphus and mini bosses to slay. It was kind of cool, to be honest. It was kind of a cool event. I don't know if it would work these days, but back then it was kind of cool. Because I compare it to what they did with Warfronts in Battle for Azeroth. And I'm like, that wasn't exactly spectacular. So yeah, that's the whole War of the Shifting Sands, which kind of wrecks whatever I'm going to be talking about in Silphus. But either way, here we still have the Caverns of Time. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that the Caverns of Time were opened up with Burning Crusade. But the Caverns of Time is kind of like the home base of the Bronze Dragonflight. So we would see in the books, like, we would see a Corialstras show up to Nosdormu. At the time, his beloved Alexstrasza was still imprisoned, and he was like, Nosdormu, can you help me out? And Nosdormu's powers are really cool. He can, like, zap you back in time and put you wherever you came from. Or he can make time speed up around you and just turn you into skeletons, right? Or make you a baby again, or send you off into it. Like, the powers of the Bronze Dragonflight are insane, which is why they're constantly nerfing him as well. So yeah, the Bronze Dragonflight is one of my favorites. And inside, we see different moments. Now, to this day, the Infinite Dragonflight is not fully explained. So the Infinite Dragonflights are basically the counterpart to the Bronze Dragonflight, right? By the way, this was closed off in the until the Cataclysm, but with the Cataclysm, it actually opened up. And for the longest time, we were like, what's behind the gate? And then we found out, like, oh, shit. Egypt. Sick. So the Caverns of Time, what we see there is that we have the Bronze Dragonflights, who are basically charged with keeping the timeline safe and pure and beautiful. And then we got the Infinite Dragonflights, that are their counterparts. There's the corrupted versions of the Bronze Dragonflight. And they, as you might imagine, want the opposite. They want to corrupt the timeline, and they want to bring about Murozond. And Murozond is an anagram for Nosdormu. It is their corrupted aspect. And for a while, that storyline was a little bit confusing. So up to the Cataclysm, basically we did not know what the Infinite Dragonflight wanted to accomplish. They were messing with moments in time. They were messing with Thrall liberating himself from Durnholdt. They were messing with Arthas escaping to go to Northrend. They were messing with the battle at Mount Hyjal. They were doing things. But why were they doing these things? What were they doing these things? What was happening? Because you could argue that, okay, if Arthas never made it to Northrend, then a whole lot of lives would be saved because no Lich King, no Frostmourne, right? Speculative. I always thought the Dark Portal, opening of the Dark Portal, stopped Medivh from opening up the Dark Portal to get the Horde in. Yes. So speculative, I thought that they wanted to weaken Azeroth and make it easier for the old gods to take over. Because just imagine, if there was no Horde, the events of Silphus in Classic would have been way different because there would not have been a Horde and an Alliance. Or if we didn't go to Northrend, we might not have discovered Yogg-Saron quickly enough. That's speculative. That's what I thought was going on, but it's never really been confirmed. Then with the Cataclysm, I think they made an oopsie where they basically closed the time loop, and Nosdormu proclaims that when he was given powers over time, the Titans showed him in his moment of demise as well. And they showed him, like, this is how you're gonna die, so that you know you are not above the laws of time. You might be the Lord of Time, but you're not above it. And so, when we killed Murozond in the Cataclysm, Nosdormu is like, oh yeah, that's my moment of demise. GG, well done, I will die this way once upon a time. It's gonna be great. Not really, he was kind of depressed about it. And I think that they made an oopsie because they kind of wrote themselves in a time loop, in a circle. Like at that point, we knew how Nosdormu was gonna die. So whatever's gonna happen, eventually he's gonna become Murozond and he's gonna die. Now, they've done some work in Dragonflight to change that. And regardless of what you think about that, the work has been done. So in essence, what they've done is Nosdormu, once again, very much worried about becoming Murozond. He's like, oh, all my life, I've worried about this one moment. I am gonna fall to darkness, everything I stand for. Ugh! And Alexstrasza is like, there, it will be okay. And she was right. Because there was one champion amongst the Bronze Dragonflight who was going to save the day. This champion is Chromie. Oh yeah, it's Morchi time. And Chromie had the power of, I'm not gonna give up. That was Chromie's power, as the aspect of time was not allowed to change his fate. Chromie was like, F that noise, I'm gonna change your fate. And so she did. Now, what could be fun and what could be cool is they could use this for future storytelling. So, in essence, to finish up the story, Chromie goes into the timelines and she basically comes into a crossroad, into a fork in the road, and she has to make a choice. She can choose to stop Iridikron from creating the Dark Hearts, basically the War Within and Beyond, right? But then Nosdormu becomes Moruzand. Or she can stop Nosdormu from becoming Moruzand and letting Iridikron fly away with the Dark Hearts. And she chose to stop Nosdormu's corruption. Now, there is the possibility that Nosdormu is still going to be corrupted at some point in the future, and that she only stopped this moment. So it could still flow in line that it becomes Moruzand later. That could be a thing. Is it interesting? I don't know, but it could be a thing. But at the same time, Iridikron dropped one of the hardest lines that we've had in the lore for quite a while. Iridikron asks Chromie, do you know why the Titans protect this timeline? Ooh, that's interesting. Because Nosdormu was empowered by the Titans to protect this true timeline. Is there such a thing? Or are we looking at like Loki style? Like there's, we're pretending like there's one timeline, but there's actually supposed to be a bazillion of them? Or are we looking at it in such a way that this is the timeline that the Titans really like, and so they turn the Bronze Dragons into just the guard dogs of the Titan timeline, but actually, Rick and Morty style, there's a whole bunch of other timelines that we should go into. Because Moruzand in the Cataclysm does say,
Amantu, what I have seen. You think that this is the end time? Ha! This is peanuts! Oh, if only you had seen what I had seen.
So there's potential for future things. SOD timeline is the sacred timeline. There you go. This one will lead to order, maybe. This one will lead into how the Titans want it. But what if we no longer want what the Titans want? But that is in the realm of speculation. When it comes back to the Infinite Dragonflights and the Bronze Dragonflights, they're now getting closer together, actually, which is kind of interesting. The Infinite Dragonflight is looking more into, okay, maybe there is a reason why we preserve the timeline, whereas the Bronze Dragonflight is opening their eyes to, okay, maybe sometimes we should adjust the timeline, which they've always done. So, yeah, interesting developments, I would say. Meanwhile, we were flying over the lands of Uldum. Uldum, what can we say about Uldum? Uldum. Okay, so a really cool Indiana Jones reference storyline is happening here with Harrison Jones, and it's just a really cool storyline. Story-wise, it's just a big old reference, but it's really cool. Lore-wise, connecting to ye olden days. Y'all remember Wrath the Lich King? Where we would fight against Elgalon, who cast a little gaze upon our planet, and he was like, mortals, if my analysis deems this planet too far corrupted, I'm sorry, but you all gotta go. And we were like, no, don't do it. And then we started to bash him, right? Stop it. This is our world. It's worth fighting for. And once we hit him enough, Elgalon was like, ow, stop, I see now. You're right. You are absolutely right. Damn right we're right. Bam. Now give us your loot. That's how we played. And then we took like this reply code alpha back to Dalaran, where Ronin does,
Citizens of Dalaran, raise your eyes to the sky and behold. Elgalon deemed us unworthy. Our creators wanted to purify us, but we said, that noise.
Sorry, Ronin uses curse language, okay? But, had that not happened, then a device in Uldum would have activated and purged the world. Uldum was once upon a time a beautiful, lush jungle area. That is, until Leishen the Thunder King was like, hey, people of Uldum, bow down to Leishen. I got the power, I got the glory, I got the beauty. You bow down to me. And so, the people in Uldum the Titan Forge, they found out what Lei Shen had done to Pandaria, right? Like enslaving the Pandaren and the Yongle and Jinyu and Hosen. Like, Lei Shen thought that he was doing what he was needed to do in order to fulfill the mission of the Titans, but in a very cruel way. And he had stolen the powers from Raden, which was their keeper, but Raden had become depressed because the Titans had been killed, and he found out that the Titans had been killed. So he abandoned the Mogu for quite a while, and the Mogu started to fight amongst each other, but Lei Shen was like, there must be more to this than this provincial life, right? Surely there's more to life than just killing each other. So Lei Shen went on this whole quest to find their mysterious keeper, and he found him, stole his powers, started to do his job, and he realized, okay, I just gotta enslave Pandaria and do the will of the Titans. There's just nothing to it. But when he showed up in Uldum and he told them what he'd done, they were like, don't know who told you to do this, but I don't think that is the way that we're supposed to be doing things. So what they did was they adjusted the Halls of Origination? What are you called? They adjusted the Halls of Origination with their whole Doomsday device inside. And instead of wiping out the entire planet, they just wiped out Uldum with Lei Shen and his Andalari followers inside, which is the reason why Lei Shen died for the first time. But it's also why Uldum is now a desert instead of a... it's a desert instead of a jungle. Which I thought was really clever use of old lore woven into new lore, and I love Mr. Pandaria so very much. So here we are in Unguro Crater. Unguro! What is there to say about Unguro? Well, I always have fond memories about Unguro, because this is where I fought one of the demons for my Rokdalar classic questline. But Unguro has been established as like this weird-ass petri dish for the keepers. So, once upon a time, the keepers have brought order to Azeroth, right? Keeper Freya, and Keeper Odin, and Keeper Loken, and all the good stuff. They've done their things. And in certain places, they started to mess around with nature, and they started to experiment with life. They did so in Sholazar Basin in Northrend. I believe Veil of the Eternal Blossoms has been mentioned. But they also did so in Unguro Crater. And so that is why you find like Titan pillars and things. You can, I think there's like a keeper right here. Yeah, or like a robot. Yeah, the Watcher. Nablia. Hello, Nablia. There's nothing for you. Go. Alright, sorry. Sorry, I know. Don't punish me. I'm just smelly Zoval, okay? But yeah, they experimented with life a little bit here. And we learned this from Rephion in Mr. Pandaria, if I remember right. Yeah, because he's talking about the Veil. Yeah. There was also one of my favorite reference quest lines to be found in this zone, but I'm pretty sure they removed it. It was a quest referencing The Legend of Zelda. Lincoln, who had lost his memory, and you can actually get like a picture of him with the princess at the castle. That's unfortunately gone. We see a little bit of Karaji influence on the ground because, you know, you're right next to Silphus. What else we got? I mean, there's the leatherworking quest line from Classic, where you would have to go here in order to get like specific skills and stuff. It was a good way to make some money. Oh, there's also one of my favorite Cataclysm questlines added with like this paladin that you follow around. You fight like a dinosaur, and then the dinosaur starts chasing you, and you have to throw armor pieces at him. It's hilarious. It's one of my favorites. What else we got? Oh, yes. Something interesting connected to the Emerald Nightmare. So, in Legion, we would go into the Emerald Nightmare raid. And in the Emerald Nightmare raid, something interesting happens. We find Il'gynoth the Corrupted, right? But Il'gynoth is standing in a dream version of Unguro. But there is no world tree in Unguro. Was there a tree in Unguro? And could this perhaps be connected to the legend of Aluna-Her, that whole Harinir roots storyline that we're going to see in The War Within? Maybe. Yes, you can activate a Titan teleporter between Sholazar and Unguro. I just don't know if I could do it on this level. And Lich King's Hand, thank you very much for the 5 gifted. Dark Bear, Moonduck, Tyonical, Samaraket, and Silent Mike. Welcome, welcome, team. There's also the thing about the crystals, and I don't know, or I don't remember the storyline between the crystals. So there's different crystals amongst the zone, and you bring those back to the pillars. And there's something about crystals giving power, but for the life of me, I don't remember if there's a story behind it. So here's the teleport. Can we actually use it? Because that would be great. I could just go into the... Oh no, I need to be Chromie time, ain't it? No, you actually need to do the quest line from Northrend's side. Alright, fair enough. What are my thoughts on retcons in general? Retcons for the sake of cool storytelling are fine. Retcons across the board, or retcons that fail, not so much. So, for example, once upon a time, Sargeras was corrupted by the Editor. And then they changed that, and they made it so that the Editor were corrupted by Sargeras. That's fine. That's cool. Once upon a time, they said that Illidan died. And then they made it so that Illidan actually went to the Twisted Nether and he got a whole redemption arc. That was a cool redemption arc. I really like that. Doing something like a Zoval, putting a big bad behind your entire story of Warcraft takes a lot. And Xal'atath might be given the jailer role. But if that's the case, they seem to be aware of that you need to do it slowly. And you need to get a really interesting character, if that's even what they want to go with. So retroactively adding a source behind your entire story so far is a big gamble. I would not really, it's a really big gamble to make that happen. And more often than not, like there's also adding Depression Bird behind your storyline and people wondering, was that always what was going on? And I don't think it was needed either. So it depends per case. A Baron's Giraffe. Wailing Caverns was a failed product, by the way, from the Druids trying to fix the Barons, and they got stuck in the Emerald Nightmare, and we had to bring them out. I want to say Naphanos, but that's not his name. The Druid inside there started to have a nightmare about a Murloc, which is why that's the end boss. Pretty sure that with the Cataclysm revamp and later down the line, they actually got things going again. So that's kind of cool. They're actually trying to fix the Barons and stuff. Noralax, there it is. I knew it was something with a Na. It's just not a Na Fanos. It's a Noralax. Thank you. And the giraffe. Yeah, there's always the meme about... you are right. Thank you. There's always the meme about you're killing so many giraffes in the Baron's quest lines, and only 1 out of 20 actually has some hooves on them. And that is purely because, well, Cataclysm questing, ain't it? Cataclysm questing. Here's the lands of Mulgore. Once upon a time, the Tauren of Thunderbluff were not living in one single city. They were mainly nomads and just cruising around the Barrens until one day, as fate would have it, they came across Thrall and the Horde during Warcraft 3. And they were like, hey, we're being attacked by the Centaur, our ancient enemies. And Thrall was like, look, Tar, I will save you. And from that moment on, Thrall and Cairn were lovers. Well, okay, maybe not lovers, but they really liked each other. And, oh wow, that's slow. Oh, that is so much slower than dragon riding. Oh, I don't like that. I think Narlex was part of the Druid Orderhog campaign. So, they became brothers, right? They became really close. Thrall and the Horde protected the caravan. Cairn felt that they owed the Horde now, and they helped them out with finding the Oracle. And so, they became close. And eventually, they set up in Mulgore, whereas Thrall would set up in Durotar. You had the trolls with the Darkspear trolls in Sentient Village. And for a while, things were okay. But... Oh, wait, I should actually explain as well. So, when the Horde was formed, you had the Orcs, the Horde... Sorry, you had the Orcs, the Tauren, and the Trolls. Yes, but there was another faction. The Forsaken. And the Forsaken were a bit of an oddball. The Forsaken were undead humans. The ones that didn't get to come with Jaina. Who had fallen to the plague. Were resurrected in undead. Followed Arthas for a while, but they were able to break free. And all of them rose up behind the most glorious leader Azeroth has ever seen. The Banshee Queen. The Dark Lady. Sylvanas Windrunner. And Sylvanas had a mission. Sylvanas wanted vengeance. And so, to not be completely vulnerable to any and all kind of threats, she needed allies. And so she sent runners to the Alliance, who didn't even make it to the gates before being shot down. And she sent runners to the Horde. And while at first the Horde was like, I don't know, zombies. I don't know if they get to be part of our family. It was Cairn and the Tauren, although I believe it was... Oh, it's the Tauren druid that gets burned in the Cataclysm. Oh, what is your name? You're a really well-known Tauren druid. Help me out, chat. Hamurun Totem, thank you. Hamurun Totem, who was like, Thrall, listen, right? Listen. I know that you maybe don't want the Forsaken amongst the Horde, but listen. What if we could cure them? What if we could find a cure for undeath? What if? And so they were like, yeah, oh, by the way, as a little side note, having Lordaeron as a fighting capital for the Horde, kind of awesome. Having zombies as a fighting force, kind of sick as well, not gonna lie. So Forsaken, with the aid of Amurun Totem and the Taurens, were allowed into the Hordes. And for Cairn and his son Bane, who was kidnapped by the Centaur, life was pretty good for a while. Life was pretty good. However, there was one amongst the Tauren who did not like Cairn. Her name was Medivh, or as they pronounce it in game, Medivh. And Medivh Grim Totem. She was very much a case of keep your friends close but your enemies closer, except Cairn forgot the enemy parts. So when Cairn entered a Mak'gora with Garrosh Hellscream and saw that Medivh was blessing Garrosh's weapon, instead of all kinds of alarm bells going off in his head, he was like, I could take him. Spoiler alert, he could not take him, because Medivh had poisoned Garrosh's weapon. One single strike took out the old bull. That's right, your Garrosh did nothing wrong. Could not even take on Cairn. Could not even take on Cairn without cheating. Boo. Boo. Yeah, thank you very much, Lionheart. Thank you. So yeah, but Garrosh was not happy with Medivh had done, obviously. So when Medivh led a coup on Thunderbluff, and sent a letter to Garrosh like, hey, listen, right, I helped you win that battle, could you go send some support? He sent a very nice letter back. Dear Medivh, I hope you die a horrible, smelly death. You will not have the aid of the Horde, you dishonorable cow. And so, Cairn was dead, but his son Bane had gotten support from Jaina at Theramore, that whole, are you neutral if you help out both sides? He then got the help from Monty Gaslow with some ships and some bombs and some supplies. They also got inside information from the Grim Totems about the coup, which is the whole reason why he was able to leave the city before Medivh took his life. And, they went in, took care of business, but did not take Medivh's life. No. Exile. And all those that stuck with her were exiled as well. But those Grim Totems that were like, you know what, we want to live under Bane Bloodhood's rule, they were allowed to stay. Because not all Grim Totems bad. Medivh and those that followed her bad. So that's the idea behind Thunderbluff. So here we are in the beautiful lands of Feralas, where there's Dire Maul. Oh, no, I'm trying to crack my brain. Okay, so, if I remember right, and you're gonna correct me on this one, chap. Once upon a time, there were high elves who had the Well of Eternity, but then the Sundering happened, and they were living in this area, and they needed magic. So they summoned a gigantic demonic beast and started to feast off of it. But over time, the cost to contain the beast became too much, and so they started to feast off of each other. And it became so much that nearly all of them died, and then we went into Dire Maul to take care of business. The Chandralar, the Highborn, yeah. I'm trying to remember, they were not an offshoot of the exiled Highborn, right? They were just here even before Azara did the thing. I'm pretty sure. Anyways, we went in and took care of business. This is also the place where Varian, Brawl, and Valera fought, if I remember right, like in the arena with the ogres and stuff. Highborn Night Elves. There you go. Okay, so were they the Highborn exiled, or were they just here before the whole exile? I think they were here before the whole exile, right? And over time, actually, fun fact. So, the history there. 10,000 years ago, Queen Azshara summoned Sargeras into the world with the Well of Eternity. And the Highborn, the Elves, the Night Elves, the Highborn Elves, some of them were on Team Azshara's side, and they really wanted to bring Sargeras and the Burning Legion in to purify the world, purge the world, all great and fantastic. But also a lot of them that did not. So a Malfurion Stormrage, an Illidan Stormrage, Thrawn the Whisper Winds, Theramore Sunstrider, and a whole bunch of them joined the rebellion. There was Cenarius and the Wild Gods, and all of them were like, nah, let's not do this. And this whole war played out, the War of the Ancients. Eventually, they're able to send Archimonde and the Burning Legion back to where they came from with the use of the Well of Eternity. But all the magics on the well made it incredibly unstable, and poof, the well exploded, imploded, whatever you want to call it. And the land of Kalimdor split apart. So what we see these days with, like, you know, the Maelstrom and then the whole splintered. Once upon a time, this was all, like, stuck together. Not all of it, but most of it. And now we got the Maelstrom in the middle, which is like the remnant of the Well of Eternity. So just part of the Elder was not exiled. Okay. So the Highborn that were here no longer had the Well of Eternity. And so they needed, like, a magical source of power. And they started to suck on the big old demon doggy. But keeping the demon doggy contained took magic as well. And in the beginning, it was fine. They were getting more power out of it than they had to send into the prison. But over time, that started to run out. Now, amongst the Night Elves, Malfurion and Tauren and whatnot, they were like, you know, we just fought this war against the Burning Legion. Magic ain't so great, you know? Yeah, we might have practiced this for like thousands and thousands of years, but really, what is magic? Just give it up. Just become a druid like me, Malfurion, because I'm awesome. And a lot of them were like, yeah, just become a druid. It's awesome. But a lot of them were also like, but I really like magic powers. That's my birthright. So, while they tried to make the use of arcane magic punishable by death, there were so many of them that they were like, okay, we can't kill all of them, but we could, but we're not going to, because, you know. So we're going to just send them away. And they did. So Theramore Sunstrider led a whole bunch of them. They took a vial from the vial of water from the original Well of Eternity that Illidan made, and they went across the sea, and they made the sun well, and they exiled them, right? Now, the use of arcane magic became punishable by death. They exiled a whole bunch of people over it. But, you know, times change. People change. People have a change of heart. And so too did the Night Elves, because with the Cataclysm? Question mark. They accepted Night Elf mages back into the ranks. Now, obviously, not everybody was happy with that decision, because you might remember how a certain Illidan Stormrage was imprisoned for life, and then they gave the Night Elves immortality, which is still the biggest laugh ever. Imagine going like, oh, you know, we shouldn't kill my brother. That would be cruel. Just give him prison time for life, and then make sure that he is immortal and is not able to F himself. And is like... But in Malfurion's defense, he thought he could talk to Illidan and turn him around. But, like, that's cruel as hell, man. Putting somebody into, like, a dark pit for the rest of the 10,000 years that followed. But he wasn't alone. There was another, Medivh Shadowsong, who guarded Illidan, his warden. And when Medivh found out that Malfurion and Tauren had allowed Night Elf mages back into society. Ooh, ho, 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 ho. Let's just say that Medivh Shadowsong did not take that lying down. She went on a murder spree. Up to the point where she, like, burned them alive and stuff. She went well deep and dark. And she even tried to go after Malfurion. Was it not for her brother Jared who stopped her? Jared, this legendary hero that led the War of the Ancients. And then was like, you know, sis, we can't kill Malfurion. And Medivh was like, oh, I'll get you next time. But then they had a change of hearts. And they were like, you know, we're going to bring Illidan back. We're going to do a Legion storyline. We kind of want to bring Medivh back as well. So what if, right? What if we just forget about this whole trying to kill Malfurion thing? And what if we just do like Jared thought that she wanted to kill Malfurion, but he thought wrong. Jared just misunderstood the situation. And that's what they did. So now you can talk to Jared in Legion, and he's like, yeah, you know, I thought my sister wanted to murder everybody, but, you know, I thought wrong. Even though that's totally what she wanted to do. I thought wrong. Anyways, we're in the lovely land of Desolace. Oh god, Desolace. Oh lordy Desolace. Desolace is home to the Centaur. And as I explained earlier, the Centaur and the Tauren, they were kind of mortal enemies for a really long time. And the Centaur origin comes from one of the hottest storylines that you will ever find in WoW. There is Feralas, who is the daughter of Pharazane, and Pharazane is the Stone Mother? Earth Mother. Stone Mother. She is the primal elemental lord of Earth. And her daughter was so full of life that Zidane, Zatar, son of Cenarius, looked at her and went, oh, damn. You know what I want? I want a piece of that. I want a piece of that. Look at that. That is bustling with some life energy right there. Let me in. Night Eye. Thank you very, very much. So Zatar and Feralas did the deed, gave birth to the Centaur, and for some weird... do I want to go into that? Yes, okay. So that was the origin story of the Centaur. But with Dragonflight, they gave us a new version of the Centaur. And they're not the same. So in essence, the ones on Dragonflight were first. They were locked away for a while. And then nature repeated itself. That was the newser's explanation. Why did they do this? Not a whole lot of reason. But whatever. This part of the Centaur, they were not exactly friendly, and they killed their father, and they became quite a hostile menace and whatnot. And I'm trying to remember why the land is dry. There's a reason why the land is desolate. I'm trying to remember. I think Feralas sucked out the life essence. I think that was the idea behind it, but I would honestly have to look it up. Was it the Sundering? I thought, wasn't there like an accidental summoning and then Feralas ate it? I'll have to look that up. I don't remember. I think something in that regard. Because we do see that there's like the Cenarian people in the middle that are trying to regrow Desolace. I have to Google it at some point. Is there anything else in Desolace? Maraudon. Bit of demon invasion. The Tauren woke her and she sucked the life out. Cool. So we were nearly there. Excellent. Yeah, so for the story-wise, again, this is like one of those classic zones where a lot of grinding. You know, they wanted to get your reputation up with one of the Centaur clans, and then your reputation would go down with the other Centaur clans. It was a lot of killing, and it was great for experience, don't get me wrong. But it wasn't exactly the most exciting sort of questing. The newly awakened Feralas reached out to the verdant surroundings for substance and consumed their energies in order to regenerate her weakened form. The Tauren would later name this barren land Desolace. The sun, a monumental loss of life, sent ripples throughout all of Azeroth, even the Emerald Dream. Good job, Brain. You remembered. Stonetalon Mountains. Highly contested zone between the Alliance and the Horde, as we can tell. The place where Thrall jumped on some birdies to go find the Oracle somewhere in Warcraft 3. Is this the place where we would see the dropping of the bomb? I'm not remember. I think so. So, one of the most badass lines that our Garrosh Hellscream got was stolen from Saurfang. But it doesn't matter, because it means that Garrosh learned and there was more to him. So, there's this whole storyline that happens in the zone between the Alliance and the Horde, and it was very much Cataclysm. Necromaniac, thank you very much for that. Where, you know, Alliance versus Horde. Cataclysm had a big old faction war going on. But Garrosh had learned during Wrath of the Lich King. He had stood with Saurfang in Northrend, and the hothead that we would see with the Burning Crusade, with the meeting at Theramore, where it was like, this is a negotiation for merchants. The hothead had to learn from Saurfang. And if you go to Wrath of the Lich King, if you go to Borean Tundra, and you go to like the Horde landing base, you can actually still see that conversation play out, where Saurfang asks him, like, how will you win this war? And Garrosh is like, I'll just crush the enemy. And Saurfang is like, you gotta be smarter than that. Also, be warned, if you ever take the Horde down a dark path, I will stand against you. Unfortunately, that part never really happened, but, point being, Garrosh learned a lot from Saurfang back in Northrend. Amongst it the line, Honor Krumgar, no matter how dire the battle, never forsake it. And that line I think sold most people on Garrosh Hellscream. So, the Garrosh that we got in the Cataclysm was a new war chief for the Horde. The Cataclysm, the world was rocking. It was a time in which, Magni Bronzebeard would go through an ancient tide to ritual to communicate with the lands. It was a time in which Thrall would step down as war chief and embrace the whole world shaman role and guide the aspects and all the good stuff. But with Thrall stepping down, it meant a new war chief. And so Garrosh, despite Cairn telling Thrall, like, don't do this, despite Garrosh telling Thrall, don't do this, Thrall made Garrosh the war chief. And this is what would lead Cairn and Garrosh into Mak'gora, the death of Cairn, Bane taken over. But it would also lead Garrosh leading the Horde. And indeed, there was the reception amongst the player base in which they were like not down with Garrosh, but over time, people embraced Garrosh. They warmed up to the idea of Garrosh as war chief. Yes, he was no Thrall, he was no peacekeeper, but my lord, did he have good VO, good one-liners, and just a regular badass, and a really good counterpart to Varian. But choices were made, story directions were made. So whereas in this moment, we would see that Krumgar, he would embrace the idea of, I will do whatever it takes to win the war. And he bombs a Night Elf settlement. Garrosh shows up and he's like, what have you done, Krumgar? This is not the Horde that I wanted to be. This is not the Horde that we're going to be. Honor, no matter how dire the battle. Never forsake it. And how sad is it? How sad is it, Necromaniac? Thank you very much for that. That an expansion later, after the Cataclysm with Mr. Pandaria, how sad is it that then Garrosh would embrace bombing of Theramore, and we would see a completely different one? And they call back to this in the novel War Crimes, where Bane Bloodhoof looks at Theramore destroyed, tears running down his muzzle, and he wonders to himself, like, what happened to the war chief who once said, honor, no matter how dire the battle, never forsake it. And I remember back then, because that's kind of where I drove into the whole lore cycle. That's what I remember speculating back in the day. Like, it was such a departure from Garrosh that we were wondering, like, okay, what is going on here? And there was speculation that Melkorok, this newly introduced bestest buddy of Garrosh, in one of the books they describe his eyes as like smoldering, and people were wondering, CJ, thank you very much as well. People were wondering, like, is that Kil'jaeden in disguise? Is Garrosh being manipulated by something? Because this seems so out of character, and it's like, nah, this is just the path that we have for Garrosh. Now, I will say, regardless if you like the decision of what they did with Garrosh, right? Like, we could definitely have discussions about that. What I do very much appreciate what they've done with Garrosh Hellscream is that they did not make him corrupted. They did not make him fall to the wishes of the old gods. They did not make him fall to some power. There's no outside force to the very end that dictated what Garrosh Hellscream did. He did what he did because he is Garrosh Motherducking Hellscream, and he will bow down to no one. He will not fall down to the torture of the Venfir. He is Garrosh, and what he did, in his mind, he did for the Horde. And that is what I will always appreciate about that character. Because too often it gets written off as, oh, you know, can't blame him, it's so-and-so. And of course, there's always reasons and motivations, but at least not corruption. How long I've been flying? This character is now almost 2 hours old, and we're level 23. So, winning? Wrong. Chronicles Volume 4 mentioned Garrosh a little bit corrupted. Wrong. Chronicles Volume 4 suggests the idea that maybe he was corrupted. It does not actually, in fact, confirm that he was corrupted, as well as Chronicles Volume 4 is wrong on its own, because it says that there are players in the game, and it has a completely mixed up timeline of Battle for Azeroth, and actually, Chronicles Volume 4 cannot be taken as a canon source until those mistakes are rectified. Actually. No, but again, I'm taking the piss, by the way, sorry. I hope that came across. Yes, Chronicles Volume 4 does have the line in the direction of some wondered if Garrosh was like manipulated or some outside sources that made him go that way. As well as I don't like it that they want to put the idea of Garrosh as actually corrupted, because that's the whole counterpoint to his character. It's the one really good thing about his character. But that is me. And as long as Chronicles Volume 4 does not clean up his deck, yeah, I don't know what to do with it. Like, on the one hand, I really want to take some information out of the book and be like, yeah, this is the new information we got. But how can we do that when it literally has wrong information in there? For no apparent reason. Like, you know. It had good art, though. Yes. Yes, it did. Right, what else? Ashenvale. We're flying in Ashenvale. Ashenvale is a highly contested zone. And if I remember right, once upon a time, Deadly Kitten Hunt, thank you very much, Gromarsh Hellscream walked this forest. And Gromarsh was feeling the itch. You know, at the time, Warcraft 3, he still had the demonic blood pumping in his veins. He was becoming more agitated. And he stopped following the orders of his war chief. And so Thrall, instead of, you know, putting him in timeouts, he was like, go into this unexplored land and go get us some wood. What could go wrong? Spoiler alert, a lot of things could go wrong, as Grum got into contact with the Night Elves. And, you know, Grum wasn't exactly down to talk or negotiate. And the Night Elves were like, oh, look, alien invaders. Let's kill them. And all of this was, of course, massively used by the Pit Lord Medivh, who knew Gromarsh from the days of drinking the demonic blood. Gromarsh was the first one on Draenor who was like, I want the blood, yum, 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 yum. So he knew about Gromarsh, and he knew that if he would put out the demonic blood, Gromarsh would double dip. And sure enough, as Gromarsh engaged combat with the Night Elves, even Cenarius entered the battlefield, the demigod, who was like, hey, what are you doing in my lands? Get out of here, orcs! Gromarsh saw a delicious pool of demonic blood. And despite knowing what it had done to the people, despite remembering the enslavement, despite Thrall leading them down into a completely different direction, Gromarsh was like, oh boy, here we go. Look, 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 look. I like to drink with Gromarsh, because Gromarsh is my mate. And when I drink with Gromarsh, my power becomes great. And so they drank the demonic blood, and they were able to kill Cenarius. Now, Cenarius, being a demigod, did not die. He was sent over to Ardenweald and then the Emerald Dream. But for a while, the Guardian of the Forest was gone. And Gromarsh was full-on corrupted by demonic blood again. In comes Thrall and Jaina, who by this point have met the Oracle, and they're like, oh my god, what's happening here? And Thrall and Jaina were able to capture Gromarsh and free his mind long enough for him to stand up against Medivh and actually slay the Pit Lords. Which is really cool. Which, you know, kind of a bummer that then his son would blow up Theramore. You know, that's kind of sad. Did he know that Jaina helped liberating his father and therefore liberating the people? Probably. Did he care? Not really. Still a bit sad though, ain't it? But hey, that is what you are for being Theramore, you know? Can't win them all. It's almost like your dad at a point. Yeah, I am. Anywho, who knew? Anyways, where do I want to go? Oh yeah, Ashenvale, highly contested. So, Thrall might have been all holier than thou and be like, oh, we must repent. Come, my horde, we will live in the desert. But living in the desert sucks. Imagine having sand everywhere. It's coarse and grainy. You don't have a lot of water. You don't have a lot of food. It kind of sucks, right? And in order to build stuff, you need resources like lumber. And imagine living right next to Ashenvale and be like, hey, Night Elves, look, right? You can literally grow trees in like 5 minutes. I've seen Cenarius regrow that forest in 5 minutes. Just build more trees, forehead. Just give us a couple of trees. What the fuck? And the Night Elves were like, nah. This is our lands, get out. And so, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to open up a battleground and fight each other in Ashenvale. In the Warsong Gulch, right? Fighting over resources. It's a world of magic. The druids can literally grow a tree in seconds. Why is wood a problem? Blizzard, why are there resource problems in your magical game? I don't get it. What am I going to say? Okay, so that's basically Ashenvale. So a highly contested zone for resources. Blah, blah, blah. Lands of the Night Elves. All fantastic. Wonderful. Then here we have Darkshore. And Darkshore, for the longest time, didn't have a whole lot going on. It's got a cool Easter egg, though. There's like an achievement happening. And I think this was here during the Cataclysm Remake. I don't know if it was here during Classic. I don't think so. I just need to find it. We'll find it. Don't worry about it. There's... I mean, I just remember this zone as the zone where I came into as a Night Elf starter hunter and just kill crabs on the beach for 5 hours and just not getting anywhere. The tower was pretty painful. There's like spirits. There's a really sad quest line with the necklace with this guy that has lost his wife and she now haunts the land as a ghost. Oh, that's kind of a cool thing. Right. So, with the Cataclysm revamp, they added quest lines here. And this is where we would actually see Azshara show up for the first time. Where there's a whole quest line with Malfurion. And he fights against the Sea Witch, and she was like, "I'll get you next time." And he's like, "Bring it." So that was kind of cool. And then it took quite a while for Azshara actually to make an appearance again, if I remember right. Because I don't think she shows up in Fashir, does she? So then that would mean that we'll actually see it. Because the whole Fashir storyline didn't really plan out because they didn't finish the zone. So this right here is a little Easter egg. Meow. She appears years later in Legion, right? Yeah. Whee! No hands. Okay, game over. Here we go. Well, if Eternity Dungeon in Kata. Yeah, in a Night Elf form, not in a Naga form. Yeah. So, this is where we would find a Demon Hunter. You're not the Demon Hunter. Where's the Demon Hunter? Hello? Pretty sure there's a Demon Hunter in here. I'm a little bit naked, though. Let's find out. Hello?
Your life has no purpose.
Yeah, there you are.
You are not of the dark path.
You do not belong here, Earthen. It's cool that you recognize me as an Earthen, though. I'm dead now. So, Telarius Void Strider is... It's part of a questline, I think. And it's one of the first mentions. Like, this is the Cataclysm revamp, right? Imagine, this is before Legion. This is before the Return of Illidan. Showing that the teachings of Illidan as Demon Hunters were being passed on way before he came back. Showing that other races besides Night Elves and Blood Elves, Blizzard, could become Demon Hunters as well. Just throwing it out there. So yeah, little Easter egg if you want to find it. Beyond that, Darkshore. Okay, cool. Big part of Battle for Azeroth, of course. Because Battle for Azeroth, we would see... So with Mr. Pandaria, we would see War Chief Garrosh lead the charge and do the whole bombing of Theramore and lead the whole war. With Battle for Azeroth, we would see War Chief Sylvanas Windrunner do it. And her motivations were actually pretty cool. Not gonna lie. They did the whole Collector's Edition book where she explains to Sourfang, like, look, Anduin is leading the Alliance, and we might broker peace for like 5 years or 10 years or 50 years, but eventually that peace is gonna be broken, right? We have the opportunity. We got. I think it was when they found Azerite, but even before that, we should secure peace by taking out the opposite faction. And I really like the way that they motivated Sourfang joining her side. And so they invaded Darkshore. They invaded Night Elven lands. And then I did not like how the Night Elves rolled over and just gave up their lands. That was really poor. Because you gotta imagine, like the Night Elves, they've defended those lands for well, not that long, but they are very well connected to nature. They got a lot of friends and allies. There's Malfurion floating around. There's got like trees and roots and stuff. Druids in the lore. Druids in the lore are badasses, Sayarina. Have a wonderful night. And you're gonna tell me that the Horde just rolled in and the Night Elves say stuff like, "Oh no, Horde, I don't want to fight you. Oh, go away." No. When you fight the Night Elf army, you prepare for blood and honor, glory and death. And we did not see that. Instead, we saw the Night Elf surrendering, which was really a big old shame. But that's what they did. They planned to make ready to surrender. They made ready to hand over their fucking capital of Teldrassil. And Sylvanas had everything she wanted. She had Malfurion dead to rights. She could take the kill. She had Teldrassil under their control, which they could hold hostage, and then they could bleed the Alliance slowly. And then Sylvanas planned to bleed the Horde slowly and turn everybody into zombies and her servants. And instead, what she does is she gets the kill of Malfurion to Sourfang for some reason, and then decides to burn the tree instead of holding it hostage for some reason. And that was the start of Battle for Azeroth. Yeah, so the burning of Teldrassil happened, in which they call it the genocide of the Night Elves. And a lot of death, a lot of destruction. And then Battle for Azeroth played out. And a couple of catapults was enough to burn a giant water-soaked tree. Yeah, but a magical fire, you know. Yeah, I mean, Malfurion is just a shame. He got like one little part with the roots in the cutscene, and that's about it. Can we explore Teldrassil? I don't know if it has markers, but we can fly there. Meanwhile, Felwood is the place where Illidan picked up the Skull of Gul'dan in Warcraft 3, hence why it's so corrupted, because the demons of the Burning Legion were like corrupting it with the fell magic from Gul'dan. Instead of just taking the Skull of Gul'dan and taking it out of the land, Illidan decided to absorb the power of the Skull of Gul'dan, and by absorbing it, he also got the memories of Gul'dan. Memories of Gul'dan, the warlock who knew about the Tomb of Sargeras and the power that was hidden inside of there. So Illidan, old demon form, took on the Dreadlord Tychondrius? Yes. Kicked him out of the lands. And then he showed up to Tauren and Malfurion and he was like, "Ta-da! I did what you asked me to do." And they were like, "How dare you do what we asked you to do, you demon." And then they banished Illidan from the lands. Which, not gonna lie, kind of a dick move. Kind of a dick move. Like, you release Illidan, the demon hunter, the guy that you know from the War of the Ancients who would do whatever it takes to get victory, and then you be surprised that he gets more power and does what it takes to get victory. You're surprised? What is his crime? Eating a succulent Chinese meal? And you exile him for that? Boo! So, Tauren, Malfurion, and Illidan, I've never really, you know. Typical hippie behavior. I never really, like, I get it. You did not want him to fall to the dark side, but at the same time, damn, Tauren. You knew damn well who you released, and there you go, like, oh, Illidan! Oh, no! Come on, man. Was the story of the War of the Ancients known as the time Warcraft 3 came out? That is a really good question. You mean the trilogy, yeah? That I do not know. I would have to check out the release dates and whatnot. Because there's also an in-game version of the War of the Ancients. Teldrassil, by the way, was planted because Fendrel Stackhelm, the same Stackhelm who lost his son during the War of the Shifting Sands, Stackhelm wasn't doing too great. No, losing a son, as you can imagine, it kind of put a dent in his armor. You know, it kind of did something with him. So, Stackhelm. The guy tried to do alright. Okay, so they found out that there were like... I'm trying to remember. If I remember right, it is connected to Yogg-Saron as Serenite. So they found out that there was like this corruption of the old god stuff going on. And Stackhelm was like, you know what we should do? We should plant happy little trees in these corrupted places. The happy little tree, the world trees, they'll be great. And they will suck out the corruption and make things wonderful. But Malfurion already told him like that's a really bad idea. But he didn't listen. So he took like branches from Nordrassil and he started to plant his little happy trees. And at first, things were looking alright. At first, it happened just as he predicted. And things worked out, and it was healed and all the good stuff. But then, the roots in Northrend started to touch the subterranean prison of the old god Yogg-Saron. Which not only allowed him to corrupt the tree, it also gave him access into the Emerald Dream. Where Yogg-Saron laid the seeds of something called the Emerald Nightmare. And the Emerald Nightmare would be a problem for us for millennia, because it corrupted the Emerald Dream. And in turn also corrupted life and whatnot. Now, the whole corruption of the Emerald Dream and the Nightmare would not be revealed until a little while later. But Yeah, that tree had to be chopped down. So in Northrend, in the Grizzly Hills, you can find like this chopped down tree with the Furbolg living in there. Yeah, that is the remnants of a world tree that had to be brought down. Then in the case of Teldrassil, Teldrassil followed the destruction of Nordrassil in Warcraft 3. So in Warcraft 3, they blew up Nordrassil in order to send Archimonde back to the Twisted Nether and just blow him up, save the day. But they also sacrificed the immortality of the Night Elves. So Stackhelm was like, you know what? What if, right? What if we plant a new world tree? Bless that tree, right? Dragons, bless that one. Bada bing, bada boom. We're immortal again, healthy, all that good stuff. But Malfurion already warned him, Stackhelm. Nature, aka the dragons, will never bless such a selfish act. You fool! Stackhelm did not listen. Stackhelm planted that world tree. And, just as Malfurion predicted, the dragons were like, lol, no. You're not getting your blessings back. Are you crazy? You're selfish. But there was even worse afoot. Stackhelm had fallen victim to the corruption of the Emerald Nightmare. Okay, so this takes us back to that War of the Ancients, where there was an advisor to Queen Azura. It was called Xavius. Xavius had made contact with Sargeras, had introduced his queen to Sargeras, and done all these things. They're like, oh, we should bring a Sargeras. And they were like, yay! Then Malfurion floats through the Emerald Dream to the palace, takes care of Xavius. Xavius dies, and his soul gets sent to Sargeras. And Sargeras was not happy with Xavius. He was like, you kind of failed me, little elf. But you know what? Gonna give you a second chance. I'll just rip your soul apart and leave behind all the bits that pleases me. And I'll let you keep your magical eyes. But the rest I'm going to transform into the first of the Satyr. Don't be a hater, Satyr. And then he sent Xavius back to Azeroth to continue that whole War of the Ancients. And Xavius obviously had a bit of a hate boner for Malfurion at this point. And he was like, oi, 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 I want to hurt you. And what better way to hurt Malfurion than to take his beloved Tyrande Whisperwind? Tyrande, where are you? Being kidnapped by Xavius. Oh, no! So as Xavius dares to lay his hands on his beloved Tyrande, there is Chandris Feathermoon, who shoots at Xavius, doesn't stop them from kidnapping Tyrande to the palace, but what it does do is give Malfurion the hook that he needs. And we spoke earlier about how Malfurion does not get to display his badass druidic powers. You know what he did? You know what he did? You know what he did? He took that wooden arrow, right? And he used it to turn Xavius into a fucking tree. Alive, by the way, inside of the tree. Able to feel what the world feels inside of the tree. You do not mess with Malfurion Stormrage. So Xavius turned into a tree. The War of the Ancients played out. The Sundering happened with the Maelstrom in the middle. And the tree fell down into the water and he ended up in contact with the Old Gods, right? The Old Gods who have access into the Emerald Dream. So at this point, our boy Xavius has a physical tree in the world and he has a dream form in the Emerald Dream and he becomes the Nightmare Lord. He works on spreading the nightmare through the dream, through his powers. And eventually, he gets his claws into Fendrel Stackhelm. And using the image of his deceased son, he started to whisper to Stackhelm, who had planted Teldrassil. And he was like, you know what you should do? You should plant a little twig here. It's gonna be great. Little did Stackhelm know that was actually part of Xavius' tree. And through it, the whole corruption of Teldrassil spread further and further and further. And he's like, yeah, that's good, Dad. That's good, man. Oh, love you, Dad. He's like, I love you, son. I will do anything for you to bring you back. Now, you might have played in Classic, and you might remember Tyrande leading the Night Elf people. And Stackhelm making really mean comments about her in the vein of, Tyrande doesn't know how to lead our people. But Tyrande was still the leader. But there was no Malfurion to be found. And the reason, well, the reason is us. We provided Stackhelm with the grass from Unguro, if I remember right. that allowed him to keep Malfurion stuck in the dream or the nightmare. And there, now it was Malfurion being slowly turned into a tree. Yeah. So, congratulate yourself on that one, hero. Long story short, Malfurion is able to liberate himself from the dream in the books, goes toe-to-toe with Xavius, the Nightmare Lord, is able to suck out the corruption of Teldrassil. Again, you don't mess with Malfurion, especially when he's holding hand with Tronda. The power of Elune, through those two, my lordy. They are a power couple, a powerhouse. It's just a shame it was never shown in-game. Anyways, Teldrassil is cleansed of its corruption. Yay! Still not blessed, though. Malfurion is still like, nah, we have not learned our lesson. We should not get our immortality back, right? We should not do this. I believe Alexstrasza and Ysera bless like their marriage or whatever, but the tree not so much with immortality. The Night Elves are still very much mortal. And Stackhelm got imprisoned. And then, you know, just doing your job, that's mighty fine and dandy. But then during the Cataclysm, we followed a questline in Mount Hyjal. And we followed the Green Dragon, who was like, we should totally move Stackhelm before the Twilight Hammer capture him. But uh-oh, they were actually in league with the Twilight Hammer, who totally took Stackhelm away from us. They presented Stackhelm to Ragnaros, the Fire Lord, who then turned Stackhelm into a Druid of the Flame. Whoops. Meow. I think that is all of Kalimdor explored, ain't it? Have we spoken about Winterspring? Is there anything to say about Winterspring, I wonder? It's the place where I farmed a lot of owls to get the max level in Classic. I got a blue dragon sinew for the quiver. We found a blue dragon here during the really cute Dragonflight, blue Dragonflight questline. Alice Razor, yeah, and then she was turned into the boss. Yeah. Trying to think if there's actually something to say about Mount Hyjal. Stackhelm mind control to be Ragnaros' servant? Nah, more like... At that point, Stackhelm was already so far gone that it was like, I might as well become his new Majordomo, ain't it? Druids of the Talon slept here during Warcraft 3. You can get yourself a really cool Frost Saber mount. Saber? Winter Spring. Oh yeah, with a really cute cup. Oh, apparently not. Alright. It has snow. Oh, it has snow. Good start, team. Kel'Thuzad walked here. Oh yeah, this is where they made the cutscene, ain't it? It's cause you're Horde. Oh, I got the Raptor, ain't it? Oh, okay. Yeah, but I don't think Mount Hyjal is part of... Is Mount Hyjal part of Chromie Time Walking? Let's find out. If I could just... I don't know. I wasn't told that you need to be Chromie Time Walking to get the exploration bonus, but I don't know if that's how it works. Let's find out. Level 26. How many levels? 80? I mean, it's kind of... I like it doing this way, because I get to spew out lore and try to get my brain to engage. And just remember random shit. I like this way of leveling, that's for sure. Don't know if anybody else is like, yeah, this is kind of cool, but I'm having fun. 2 hours, 11 minutes for 26. I mean, with Dungeoneering, you're probably going to be quicker, but that's alright. It's fun. And my smelly Zoval gets to witness the... I mean... I don't think I could have... Oh, I'm so happy. I am so happy right now. Oh yeah, we did Uldum as well, yeah. No markers here for exploration, though. Huh. But I'm definitely getting experience, so... Alright. Interesting. So, Mount Hyjal. This is... According to the good books, Keeper Freya once bound the wild gods here. Her beloved wild gods. To Azeroth. This is also where... So, in the War of the Ancients, a whole lot of the wild gods, the demigods, basically, right, got taken out. They got taken out. And then we spoken about Cenarius being sent back to Ardenweald and whatnot. But this, during the Cataclysm, we did this whole ritual with Jared Shadowsong, the commander of the armies during the War of the Ancients, to bring back a couple of those wild gods. And Aviana a Cenarius, a Goldrin. It was really cool. Really cool storyline. This is also where the forces of Ragnaros the Firelord and the Twilight Hammer united during the Cataclysm. And they're allied with Deathwing. So Deathwing during the Cataclysm was full-on working for the old god N'Zoth. And once upon a time, the Elemental Lords were actually enslaved by the old gods. So you might wonder, why would a Ragnaros want to work for a Deathwing? Same vein like an Elakir, but like Neptulon and Pharazane were always the much calmer, cooler elements, right? Like the water and the earth, they're stable, they're relaxed. Whereas fire burns and wind goes whoosh, right? So they're more chaotic, and they actually kind of liked the whole fighting with the old gods. So they're like, yeah, we're down. Here is also Nordrassil. Now, in the Caverns of Time, you can go into the raid Nordrassil, where you fight against Archimond. That's the Warcraft 3 campaign brought into WoW. And it kind of showed them that bringing a Warcraft 3 campaign into WoW makes for the shitty-ass raid. But it was kind of cool. So here, the roots of Nordrassil, when they blew it up in order to defeat Archimond during Warcraft 3, it did not destroy the entire tree. And even back then, they said, like, yeah, in time, those roots are going to heal. Underneath Nordrassil, there was also this Well of Eternity that Illidan created. That's the whole reason why they planted this tree. So after the War of the Ancients, land split apart, Well of Eternity was imploded, exploded, and there's the Maelstrom in the middle. But Illidan had filled a couple of vials with water from the original well, and he used a couple of them to create a big old magical well right here. Now, again, you can imagine as the Night Elves, they've just fought a war, and they don't need magic, they need water. And you could argue, well, couldn't they just magic water then? Yeah, shut up. It's beyond the point. They didn't want another source of power that could summon in the Burning Legion. So they were really upset with Illidan, they imprisoned him for life, and they planted a world tree over it so that nobody could find these powers. So yeah, the tree has been healing over time. There is the Druid artifact questline from Legion, Kahanir, the healing branch, where again, they were trying to heal it. There's also the Cataclysm questline, where they're trying to infuse the roots with power, and then that get interrupted by the Twilight Hammer, who split Thrall. No, by Stackhelm and the Druids of the Flame and the Twilight Hammer, who dominate, and I find this brilliant because Jesse Cox made a video about this back when, where he was like, what is this for powerhouse? They're able to not only stun the Aspects, but also Thrall and Malfurion and all these powerhouses. But they were, and they split Thrall apart into the different elements, and then we had to go into elemental planes in order to put Thrall back together. But then, they kind of forgot the original plan that we had, so we got there in order to help the roots. But then they kind of forgot about that, and we ended up with a marriage. Now, they explained that off-screen they finished the ritual, but it was kind of a funny moment in the story where it was like, we were here for okay, marriage, yay, go Thrall, yay! So that was kind of cool. So yeah, the tree's been healing for quite a while. Will it ever become a new world tree? Maybe. But now they also got Bethlehem. They got a new world tree already. So I don't know if Nordrassil is still that important. But yeah, it's definitely there. Belemeth, thank you. Belemeth, the new world tree with Dragonflight. There's also Amirdrassil. The town is called Belemeth. Thank you. Can we just do these? Yeah, we just did these. Oh, I guess it resets itself. Okay. Oh no, I didn't have these markers when I flew in for the first time for some reason. Okay, sometimes it's just kind of wonky. We also see a gateway into the Firelands. So we've spoken about the Elemental Plane. But the Elemental Plane is not a natural occurrence, or at least not as far as we know. The Elemental Plane was created by the Keepers, by Keeper Ra, working together with Keeper Helya. And this was when they fought the war against the Black Empire, when the world of Azeroth was all chaotic, and the Elemental Lords were enslaved by the Old Gods. So the Keepers did battle with the Elemental Lords, and they won. But you can't really kill the Elemental Lords. They would just come back, right? Like they're elements. They infused with Azeroth, with a building block foundation of the universe. So they would just come back. And instead they decided that imprisonment was going to be the way. And they created these elemental domains. The Firelands, they made Skywall, they made the Abyssal Maw, and they made Deepholm. And they dumped in Ragnaros, Alakir, Neptulon, and Pharazane neatly away in their own little pocket domains. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Now, we already knew that Ragnaros was summoned back into the world by Emperor Fauruzan during the War of Three Hammers. But here, at Mount Hyjal, we once again saw, like, the weakening of the barrier between the real world and the elemental plane. This was very much a Cataclysm thing. Very much the Cataclysm pre-event had, like, a whole bunch of elemental portals pop open. And, you know, the barrier was weakening. It was Deathwing breaking out of the world, breaking that world pillar in Deepholm, and the elements rising up and whatnot. So we would actually have a patch called Rage of the Firelands, where we would go into the Firelands and take care of business. In a similar vein how in Uldum we found our entrance into Skywall, we would find an entrance into Deepholm by... How did we go into Deepholm again? I'm trying to remember. I know that I went through a portal in order to go to Deepholm, but surely there must have been a traveling way to Deepholm. Is there a traveling way to Deepholm? Wasn't the Maelstrom into... Was it the Maelstrom? I thought the Maelstrom was into the Abyssal Maw. It's the Maelstrom. Okay. So going through the Maelstrom, you go into Deepholm, and if you wanted to go to the Abyssal Maw, you would do it in the Vajir. And the Abyssal Maw was actually planned to be a raid as well, but it never was really implemented. Womp womp. Ah. That's Kalimdor done already? What the fuck? That's well quick. And we actually had something to talk about in every single zone. We didn't talk about Menkrik's wife, though. I'm proud of us. Oh, we haven't done Azshara yet. Yeah, you go down the Maelstrom. You fall down the Maelstrom. There you go. So Azshara did not always look like the Horde symbol. It started to look this way when the Goblins joined the Horde during the Cataclysm. And they were like, let us give a gift to the Horde. Let us transform the land into a symbol. And I think the Night Elves were pissed off about it as well. But I would argue, who would go to Azshara anyways? Like, who cares? You know, big deal. But apparently the Night Elves, you know, the Night Elves cared. The Goblins, not so much. The Goblins were like, oh, this is some prime real estate. Especially the leader, Jester Gallywix. Gallywix was all about making that money, making it moolah. So much so that he was willing to sell his people into slavery. And while they... Okay, so Gallywix actually found Azerite first. He found it before Battle for Azeroth. He found it with the Cataclysm. And I'm pretty sure they confirmed that he caused the mountain to explode. But either way, during the Goblin starting experience, we would actually compete with Gallywix over who could be the biggest boss. And he showed that whoever had a boat to escape an exploding volcano was the biggest boss. So we had no choice. We sailed with him. And we were prisoners, you know, slaves on the boat. But the boat ran into an Alliance convoy. And since the Alliance are so good, mighty, and pure, they decided to blow the boat to smithereens. Because I'm pretty sure they were having, like, open warfare and they were not supposed to. So they just blew up the Goblin boat. The good guys, by the way. And they would have drowned, was it not for Goblin ingenuity. Goblins are really cool, by the way. Goblins used to be dumb, and then they started to mine Kashemite, and they became really clever. And then the effects of Kashemite are wearing off, and I'm really hoping that we're going to see an Undermine storyline actually dive deeper into the Goblin history, because Goblins deserve way more love in the storyline. Especially since they make so many cool things. Like, look at this. Look at this. Goblins were like, you know what? Azshara is kind of boring. What it needs is a railroad, is a railway. It needs a road where you could just drive on top of it. Go. And it's great. So anyways, the Goblins, they try to escape. The boats get blown up. They end up on an island. They meet up with Thrall, who also got captured by the Alliance, by the way. And they help out the War Chief. And the War Chief is like, hey, you're cool people. Let me hook you up with the Horde. Send you over to Orgrimmar. Just tell them I send you. Garrosh will hook you up. But I guess Thrall kind of forgot that Gallywix tried to kill him during the quest line. Or maybe he was like, haha, that was funny. Either way, he never told them not to make Gallywix the leader of the Goblins, even though Gallywix tried to sell his people into slavery. So that was interesting. Anyways, Gallywix remained on as leader of the Goblins. And what's really sad is that they tried to do some work for Gallywix. They gave him a short story. I think it was the Blank Scroll, where he was like, yeah, I like to make profit, but I still look out for my guys, right? And ultimately, they never really took him anywhere else besides, haha, making money. Up to the point where, when Sylvanas rose to power, Gallywix was right at her side. He was the one who introduced her to Azerites, power, war, yada, yada, yada. Also, this cannon. Once upon a time, Blizzard made the mistake that they said, like, we're gonna fire this cannon. There's a whole quest line in his zone where you put ammo into the cannon. It's a Cataclysm quest line. And they once said, oh yeah, we're totally gonna fire the cannon at some point. And ever since then, it's been like 10 years. People still hold on to the dream that we're gonna fire the cannon somewhere. One day, I'm sure Xal'atath is gonna line up for this cannon. Honestly, that would actually be fucking funny. Or maybe Azeroth could wake up and then we could use this cannon on Azeroth. Oh, if this becomes the one thing that saves us all, I'm gonna be so happy. Like 15 years now, I know, right? Nah, you know. So yeah, Goblins join the Horde and they turn Azora into the symbol. Before that, Azora wasn't really massively used as far as I know. Not for questing anyways. I think it was like broken off from the original Night Elf Empire from 10,000 years ago. It had the Blue Dragon World Boss in there, who was part of the Scepter of the Shifting Sands questline. That Blue Dragon would then enter a relationship with a Spirit Healer. Yeah, that happened. Gallywix also put his face in a mountain. What a guy. Oh yeah, for the fate of Gallywix, by the way. He was part of the Goblin Heritage Armor questline, in which the Goblins basically overthrow him. They have this suit, and they're like, F you, Gallywix, get out of here. He already built an Orgrimmar. When Sylvanas had her duel with Sourfang, he was right, like, I gotta get out of here, burning papers, I gotta go. And then he, for some reason, showed up in the Shadowlands, in Tazavesh, in the Broker Super Duper Dungeon. Just randomly, he just sits there talking to the brokers and is like, Gallywix, what are you doing here? I doubt that you're dead because you got your own body, so how did you get to the Shadowlands? Why are you dealing with the brokers? What are you trying to do here? I don't know. He just randomly showed up as a little Easter egg and it never explained. So that will be a mystery for the ages, if and when he ever comes back into the storyline. So the work that they tried to do with Gallywix, you know, making profits but still looking out for the little guy. Oh yeah, they infiltrated his palace with Legion. Yeah, stole his stuff. But yeah, trying to work for like the little guy. That storyline is now given to Noggenfogger and Monty Gaslow, as they're the ones that are going to lead the goblins into a new era of goblineering. There's also the Planet of the Apes reference in this zone, if I remember right. I just don't know where it is. They're supposed... Oh, there it is. Never mind. Meow. I don't know if this... Nah, I don't think this is the reference. There's another statue in a different area that's like a reference to the Statue of Liberty, and it's a reference to Planet of the Apes, where it's like, you blew it up. Didn't he die? Did we kill him in Siege of Orgrimmar? Nope. Gallywix... Gallywix in the Siege of Orgrimmar questline is seen burning papers in Orgrimmar. And then we do the whole duel with Sourfang outside, and then he's gone. And there's never been a definitive fate given. As well as, if he was in the Shadowlands dead, then why does he have his original body? Rarely are they given their original bodies, if not part of a covenant. Point being, like, why was he there? What was the point? What story we're trying to tell? I have no clue.